Hey guys, Rift here, and today I'd like to talk about Dying Light. So stick around till the end to hear my recommendations and conclusions for this game, and also for a few updates about the channel. Now if you didn't know, Dying Light is a 2015 survival horror video game developed by Techland and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. This story is centered around Kyle Crane as he's sent to Haran to retrieve a file for the GRE. Now that's all I'm gonna say about the story, and if in case you haven't played it yet, but yeah. So I played this game 3 times already if I can remember, and the first 2 times that I played it, I didn't finish it. Third time though, well, I was able to finish it because I wanted to make a review. So as always, we're going to separate this review into 2 parts, the pros and the cons. Let's jump right into it. So the first pro that I want to talk about is how the graphics and the visuals for this game is really impressive for its time. And it still holds up really well compared to other newer games that we have today. And it also has this distinct art style, which is really cool. From the effects when you bash a zombie's head in, to the effects of your weapons and the environment, almost everything that you can see in this game looks really well done. That's really impressive for a game that came out in 2015. Now I know a lot of other games that time were really well done, they had awesome graphics, but something about Dying Light's visuals still really holds up to this day, which is really cool. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is the unique game mechanics. Now there are a lot of things that's unique about this game. The first thing is the first-person parkour. Parkour is very well done. The movement feels very fluid. When you're watching parkour videos on YouTube versus playing Dying Light, it feels really the same way. Now I don't practice parkour myself, but this is as close as I think I'll get to it. The other thing about parkour is it makes traversing the city really fun. It's like you're constantly solving a fun puzzle on how you're gonna move around the city, figuring out the fastest and best routes to get from one place to another, or when you're being chased at night by virals. The city is well made, it's perfect for exploring while parkouring. The implementation of parkour and the city, it's perfect. The next thing that I want to talk about is the combat. Now, I was a little bit on the fence about putting this one as a pro, well I'll explain more as we get through it. The reason why I ended up putting it as a pro is mainly because it's really fun for what it is, but I do think that the combat can get really repetitive over time. For example, the first 5 to 10 hours can be really fun, but after that, bashing zombies' head in with the same weapon over and over again, or even different kinds of weapons, it just gets really boring. It's stale, and it's something that I think they should fix in Dying Light 2. The other thing why I wanted to put it as a pro, it's fairly unique for its time. It's unique enough to get you hooked, but the repetitive loop of the combat gets really repetitive. The other thing about combat that I want to talk about is the weapon variety. There could be more, or it could be a little bit better, to be honest. You only have a few weapons with weapon variety. One-handed would branch into 2, with blunt and bladed, two-handed the same way. You also have the bow and the gun. They feel really nice, but for some reason, they feel really clunky at times. Sometimes when you're aiming with a bow, I know there's a drop with the bow, but the drop feels really inconsistent at times. And sometimes it feels like it's just passing through the enemy that you're shooting. The gun feels the same way as well. You're aiming at their head, but for some reason it's not hitting even though you're really close range. To me the combat is good, but it's one of the weakest parts of the game. Next, let's move to leveling up. It's very unique and well done. It doesn't feel grindy at all. You seamlessly level up. Every action you do adds to a little bit of experience points. So while running throughout the city, you're gaining XP without even noticing that you're already leveling up. Same thing with combat. But one thing that I have to say that I don't like about the leveling up is some of the skills you can learn. Some of the skills feel more like gimmicks than actual skills that are useful. For example, the shield crafting skill, I never really used shields throughout my whole playthrough because it just didn't make sense. And the tackle skill, it was useful, but I still like to kick when I'm sprinting rather than ramming, because when you're ramming and you're in like high places, you can fall off really quickly. So yeah, and the skills like the windmill as well. They feel more like gimmicks than actual uses because you don't want zombies to be surrounding you. When they're always surrounding you, you're doing something wrong. The other unique mechanic of this game is the day and night cycle. Now, it's not the first time we've seen a day and night cycle within the game, but it's the first time we see that exploring the daytime is a lot different from exploring the nighttime. One of the main things is the double XP. And at first, it's really scary to go out at night because you're afraid of the virals. Up until you have the grappling hook. When you have that, I mean, it's just easy mode now. One thing that kept on coming back to my mind when I was playing this game is that I felt like I was playing Apex Legends. If you know what Apex Legends is, there's this character named Pathfinder, my favorite character, who has a grapple hook. A lot of the movement and the grappling really felt familiar when I was playing Dying Light and Apex Legends. Another pro is a lot of the cool Easter eggs scattered throughout the city. Now, I'm not gonna spoil any of the Easter eggs for you because there's a lot of other videos already showing that, frankly. But yeah, a lot of really cool references and Easter eggs are found throughout the city, which is super cool. The next thing are no stealth missions. You're not forced whatsoever to go through a particular section of the game in stealth, which is really cool. And I think that stealth isn't really emphasized too much with the game because Kyle Crane is more like a brute than a stealthy type of guy. So yeah. And the last pro that I could find is a great soundtrack. Now there's a con hidden somewhere there as well, but overall the soundtrack is really nice. Now that we're finished with the pros, let's talk about the cons. If you're enjoying the content right now, don't forget to like, subscribe. We're trying to reach that 500 subscribers. And yeah, now before we talk about the cons, I just want to say this. Some of the cons here could be personal preference. Maybe you like these things. You know, it's okay to disagree with what I find are cons. So yeah, tell me down below if you disagree. The first con that I want to talk about is the story. The story just feels really weak, especially towards the mid to end game. For some reason, I didn't really care too much for the main character, for Kyle Crane, and for the other characters like Jade and her brother. Because you don't really spend too much time with them to build a relationship that you as a player can connect to. Which brings me over to character development. It's very weak. In the end, I feel like I don't really know who Kyle Crane really is. One thing, Kyle doesn't take initiative in anything. It's mostly someone telling him to do something and he goes and do it. The other thing is Kyle Crane's motives are very weak as a main character. I think it's one of the reasons why the story is a little bit forgettable for me. The other thing is that I feel like towards the end this game feels like a drag, especially the main missions. Like there's one mission where you meet the doctor in Sector 0, where the doctor is like, go here, go here, go here, go here, go here, instead of just giving you all of the things that you need to do at one time and you just go and do it. It just feels like there's just too much that they wanted to add just to add more game time, which just felt like really a drag. I feel like this is one of the reasons why when I played this game for the first time when it came out, I wanted to stop playing it because it just got really boring towards the end. I would always reach the part where I would be in Sector 0 or in Old Town and I would never finish a game. Well, until my third playthrough. And I think one of the reasons why I finished the game was because I wanted to make a full review and I wanted to finish the story. The next thing is the side quests. Now the side quests to me are really bad. They're all the same. I did almost all of the side quests. I think I left out like 3 side quests in the end when you're just finding or looking for coffee and gaslight or something like that. But the side quests were really boring. They were the same fetch quests over and over again. And there was really no variety to it. There was a couple of side quests here and there where it was fairly unique. But overall, the side quests were just really repetitive. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's one thing about the soundtrack that I didn't really like. And it's the horror music. Now, I love the horror soundtrack. It's really great for like the first 2 missions. And then you get to another horror section of the area of the story and this like violin sound just keeps on playing over and over again. It just got really tiring. Instead of it being scary, I felt more annoyed that I had to go through a quote-unquote scary section of the game with this very annoying horror violin sound. If you want to hear it, I found something close to it. It's not exactly the same track, but it's down in the description. It's the crazy violin one, if I'm not mistaken. Next, let's move to the NPC. I'm pretty sure if you play this game, you're gonna meet some of those NPCs just in random locations. Some of them have really interesting stories, but some of them just feel like a drag to listen to. The other thing about the NPCs are the voice acting. A lot of the voice actors for the NPCs, I feel like they were just one person. Like for the children or the kids in the story or in the game, feels like they sound all the same, and the other NPCs as well, they really sound like they're just one person. This one I think is more of a personal preference thing. It's the inventory management could have been better. I always felt like I was running out of space when I would lockpick a chest and find a really good weapon. I would always find myself full of weapons that I wouldn't really use throughout the game. And yeah, the next thing, I did mention this a little bit earlier, is the leveling up. I think some of the skills could have been more in depth. I hope they do that in Dying Light 2, because a lot of the skills just feel like gimmicks, really. And I've been saying this word over and over again. You're probably tired of hearing it, but this game is very repetitive. And this part is kind of a spoiler, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I'll give you like 5 seconds. You can skip here. Alright, if you're still here, one thing that I noticed that was just really weird is the unexpected QTE versus Rise in the end. I was genuinely surprised that there was a QTE at the end, which was really, I wouldn't say it's dumb, but it just feels like it's uninspired. The other thing is the main mission objectives. You know how when you're using your senses, you can detect stuff in-game? Some of the main mission objectives are really obscure and sometimes can get really confusing because they blend in so well with the environment. The white diamond thingy that's pointing you to your next objective, sometimes you can't see it because it just blends in so well, and it could get really frustrating sometimes. So that's about it. Let's move over to the conclusion. Dying Light is one of the most underrated games when it came out. No one was really talking about this game, but over time, the game did rise in popularity. This game was ahead of its time, with a lot of its mechanics from the leveling system to the parkour, but this game does have a lot of downsides as well. From a very weak story and character development to a gameplay loop that felt repetitive for a relatively short game. I personally played this game 3 times. In the first 2 times I played the game, I got bored of the gameplay really quickly. Mainly the combat got very stale. The 3rd time I played this game, I had 2 reasons to keep on playing. To make a full review and to finally finish the story. Aside from the combat, the parkour elements of this game is what makes this game shine. Fluid movement and the freedom to explore the world how you want to. The graphics and the in-game effects still hold up really well to even newer games right now. And the music, soundtrack is really strong, except for that crazy violin track. Overall, this game is a good game with a lot of unique gameplay mechanics, and with Dying Light 2 coming out very soon, Dying Light 1 is a great game to build up from. I hope in Dying Light 2 they can build up on the parkour and add more movements while making more in-depth combat mechanics. I would also like to see that their promise to make our choices matter actually work. And of course, give us a strong story with characters we can connect to. Now, for my recommendations. If you clicked on the video asking yourself, should you buy Dying Light? I'll say it to you right now, you should. As I mentioned, this game is really good. Though this game has its rough edges, overall this game is fun. Busting zombies' heads in, getting headshots with a bow, and running around the city during the day and night cycle can be very exhilarating. One major thing about this game is that it has a lot of positives to build up from for its upcoming sequel. So, if you're interested in Dying Light 2, I highly suggest you guys try out Dying Light 1 if you haven't, and see for yourself if it's for you. So that's gonna be it. Good night and good luck. So hey guys, thank you very much for listening to the end of the video. I haven't been able to upload recently. Well, I mean, it's been a month, but I've just been busy with some things and thinking about a few things as well. But yeah, I'm gonna continue making videos as always. I just don't know what type of videos I would like to constantly make. I know that game reviews is going to be one of them, but it's not something that I can do daily, obviously. But yeah, if you guys really have any suggestions or anything that you guys would want to see from me, just tell me down below. And yeah, that's going to be it.